Greetings everyone, hey, how you doing? It's Matt Sella. Today, I am doing a very special review for The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, a Netflix series right now on Netflix. And I'm joined here with a very special friend of mine. It's the good, enthusiastic Dark Crystal fan himself, Marc.
I am a puppet.
Oh, no, you're independent than that.
You have strings and rods on my arms. I'm pretty...
Let's get that hand out of your butt and give you the freedom to share your opinions on this interesting series.
I can be a real boy.
So for those who are wondering, we're going to do a non-spoiler overview now. Mm-hmm. Talk a bit about like what is the Age of Resistance Dark Crystal series, what are our general thoughts on it, maybe a couple like early like moments that we liked. And then once we give our general impression and rating for this, we'll jump into spoiler talk of The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. And Marc warned me we might talk about the original film a little bit. So if you haven't seen either of those things, you will be warned when the spoiler animation comes up to tell you otherwise.
Just look for the mermaid.
Exactly. So let's get things started here. Since I'm not really a big Dark Crystal fan at all.
No, as someone who showed you the original movie, I can attest to that.
Yeah, because I remember seeing the original movie when I was really little. Haven't seen it since. You showed it to me recently.
Yeah, because behind the scenes, we wanted to do a review of the movie before the series came up.
Yeah.
But
I think time
life got in the way. But I mean, if you don't hate us by the time we're done reviewing this series and you want us to review the movie too, let us know in the comments section.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd love to do some retro reviews. But the point is, Marc, you are a much bigger fan of this than I am.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of Jim Henson in general, but you really paid attention a lot to like the production, the lore, and even like some of the expanded lore.
Yes,
behind this.
I have.
So I'm going to give the floor to Marc now. He's going to tell us, for those who may have not heard of the series or are curious about it, Marc, why don't you tell the people, what is the Age of Resistance, the Dark Crystal series?
In another time, in another place, in another world. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that stuff. On the planet of Thra, there are the creatures known as the Gelfling, who are ruled by the Skeksis. And throughout the course of this series, the Gelfling find that their benevolent rulers are not so benevolent and might actually be the horrible monsters that they actually look like. I mean, it's really not even funny if you know what the Skeksis look like. They're a lot more cleaned up in this than they are in the movie, but like you look at that and you go, yeah, that's the bad guy. But in all fairness, nothing in Thra really is entirely beautiful. Like maybe the Gelfling are, but like it's very much it's subjective. Well, it is subjective, I think. So I mean, I guess I could see why in this world at this time, especially since the Skeksis are deceitful little so-and-sos, you know, the Gelfling wouldn't be like, this evil-looking creature might actually be a good person.
Yeah, you never know.
But they discover the Skeksis have a plot to drain the essence of the Gelfling and harvest them and bring about the destruction of not only them, but their entire planet as the crystal, that is the, for lack of a better term, sort of the heart of the planet, is being corrupted by the Skeksis who rule over it in their castle. And that's the basic synopsis of the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. No spoilers, of course.
Yeah.
Matt, your thoughts, I suppose, since you are the Dark Crystal Scrub.
Yeah, I'm the Scrub Lord here.
You're a Scrubsies.
Oh, thank you, man. But
you're not quite a whole person, and you're not a fan of the Dark Crystal.
I've been split and looking for my other half. Wait, that's a semi-spoiler, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway, the point is, what's actually kind of funny is I remember I watched the Warcraft movie with an old friend of mine a long time ago, and he was a bigger fan of Warcraft than I was, and I was confused out of my mind. Luckily, with this one, the lore is actually not that complicated.
No, it sounds very heady, but it's really very simple.
Yeah, because I remember when I was watching this series, I actually had my laptop out and I was taking notes for each episode.
I can see them right here. This is like a manifesto.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I gotta keep track of all these crazy names and all that stuff, and hopefully I'll understand the lore. I actually think the overall setup for the prophecies and all that stuff is actually pretty straightforward.
No, yeah, it definitely doesn't have some of that, you know, trouble with prophecy. Well, I have a problem with prophecies and narratives in general because in part you almost just want to stand up and shout, well, spoiler alert,
right?
But it doesn't have that airiness to it like this. Any prophecy that comes up in here isn't like a And so it's almost played for fun in a way.
Yeah. And I will say, I think the way the events of this series goes on, it felt like a natural discovery of plot. Meaning like the Skrillex were not... yeah, that's what I said. They were at the top of their peak. They were the lords of the land. And the Gelflings, they were all subservient to them.
And content.
Yeah. And they believed there was an actual economy and government that was working with that. But as the Emperor, voiced by not Draco Malfoy, but the father, I forget the guy's name.
He also voiced, I think, the Inquisitor in Star Wars Rebels. He does a good job there too. Voiced by evil British guy.
Yeah, pretty much. Voiced by evil British guy. Anyway, I guess he was like starting to get a little antsy about dying or something.
Yeah.
And he wanted to like find a way to subvert it, become immortal or something. So then he had evil Mark Hamill try to find ways to like stop that.
The scientist.
Yeah, the scientist. And it was just it was interesting how it was like this whole structure that they came up with. They knew there was limitations. They had to keep somehow to be immortal. And that's when things start to fall apart for almost everybody.
Yeah, it's through their own it's not through the character or the main character's desperation. It's through the villain's own desperation that the events actually begin to take place.
And I think that's the desperation that makes it interesting, is that they weren't all knowing and fully in control the whole time. They tried to appear that way.
Yeah,
but at times they're like, well, something's not working here. You're being too slow. We're just going to try this.
Well, yeah, that's one of the appeals of the Skeksis is not look, all according to my grand master plan. That like by no way could anyone have such foresight and manipulation to actually have that be all according to their plan. Xehanort.
Right.
But especially in this one, you really see, and it's
also side note. I don't mean to. I'm sure most Kingdom Hearts fans know this. I didn't realize this until I watched a Let's Play recently. Xehanort is a mix of letters saying no heart with an X in it. I
swear to God, you just got that?
Yeah. Well, I told you.
Okay, this is why we're not talking about Kingdom Hearts. This is why we're talking about the Dark Crystal. This is why you're going to piss me off about the Dark Crystal and not Kingdom Hearts. Stay on target.
Stay on target.
And don't talk about Star Wars.
Stay on target.
Where were we? The Skeksis, yes. They are selfish. They're not cannibalistic in the traditional sense, but they're very willing to backstab one another while still even trying to hold a pretense that...
they're greedy. Yeah. Very selfish greed.
There's a reason some online correspondents use them as a reference for some business people.
It's actually kind of funny. I'm not going to get into politics or anything like that here, but there were some parts of like the way they were addressing each other, trying to fix things, but also bring up other issues, really made me think of real life, and that made me sad.
Yeah, when the Skeksis make you think about real life, you're in trouble.
Yeah, but no, those Skrillex guys, they're
Skeksis.
Real. That's what I said. They're parasites, man.
No, yes, they are.
And it's established in the beginning, when it breaks down the lore, that they didn't come from Thra.
No.
They're visitors. So, yeah, in many ways, they're alien parasites.
Yes.
That just came to manipulate. And man, talk about Agra real quick before we get into our final verdict and anything like that, because I don't want to spend too much time with the non-spoiler part, because there's a lot to talk about in this series. I didn't think much of Agra from the original movie, but in this one, they really made her very fascinating for me, where it's like, yeah, she's the original protector of the planet Thra, make sure that life is balanced and all that, but then the Skrillex came in and they gave her
Skeksis.
Yeah, that's what I said. They offered her like an observatory, or what did they call that machine? It's not an observatory. It just looks like it. I think it's like some kind of like spiritual channel thing. Anyway, the point is, she started to look towards the stars, while the rest of the creatures...
She entrusted the planet to the Skeksis.
Yeah, and that's when they really start to manipulate and just feed off of it without her knowing, while she's out in the stars. And then when she finally realizes, oh, these guys are up to no good. What have I done? Why can't I reach out? And I thought that was really fascinating to me.
No, yeah, there's a few elements of that really are enjoyable in this series.
Not everyone is omnipotent.
No, and that's very much a thing within the Dark Crystal, especially this series, is like, your villains aren't, always in control and always have something going on. Well, maybe the Chamberlain, but it's in a strange way, this world of puppets functions rather realistically with how people are able to react and control things around them.
Yeah. I will say real quick about the Chamberlain, though. It's like, yeah, he probably would be the most in control guy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I also think he's probably more just confident and lucky rather than he knows exactly where things are going to go. Mm-hmm. Like, I think he's really good at covering his butt and like manipulating certain people, but he doesn't know exactly how things are going to turn out, but he knows how to keep his options open.
Yeah, he has contingencies.
Yeah, exactly.
Unlike some of the other Skeksis, he is not so blinded by his one objective.
Yeah, like all of the rest are pretty impulsive. He's like, okay, I got to think about the long term here.
Yeah.
So, but actually, before we get into overall impressions,
did I get to say my piece?
Oh yeah, go say your piece. I was going to say, like, what do you think of the heroes?
This is where you tell I'm much more of a fan of the Skeksis than I ever was of any of the Gelflings, even in the original. Aughra is great. I actually really enjoyed her in this. I liked, what is it, Geet?
Deet.
Deet, yes.
Deet is the Groton.
Deet, the Groton. Oh, here's the thing, because now there's different clans.
Yeah, there's 7 tribes.
We're not just at Gelflings. And Hup, I was worried was going to be an annoying character, but he
Hup
actually he really grew on me.
Oh, he did. We'll get more into that in spoilers.
Rian was okay too. I believe he was voiced by the Kingsman fellow.
Yeah,
Egerton.
Edgerton, yeah.
Egerton, yeah.
I forget his full name. Like, as soon as I see it, I was like, oh yeah, that guy. He's pretty cool. I almost said Baby Driver, but no, that's a different guy.
Yeah, here's like a fair amount of the people who voiced some of these original characters have sadly passed. The person who voiced the Chamberlain in the original one actually passed, I believe, a year or so ago.
Yeah.
But a real shout out to Simon Pegg here, who has done voice work before and surprised me.
Oh,
you would not know that wasn't the original voice of the Chamberlain. Simon Pegg was a true chameleon in this vocal performance.
Dude, the cast, I was looking over the cast as I was watching each episode. I mean, you were able to binge this a lot faster than I was. I was taking notes and going through the credits each episode. Yeah, no, dude, this is a very powerful cast. I mean, you have like, I'm not going to say specifically who at this point, but I'm just going to say like we had Awkwafina, we had Bill Hader.
Bill Hader, who was also another standout, I might add.
Yeah. Mark Strong as Rian's father. And it's just really impressive cast. I was surprised. I mean,
Andy Samberg.
Yeah, Andy Samberg. Mark Hamill's in there, which was pretty big headlines. I remember a while ago. People were like, wow.
Yeah, no, he oddly enough was one of the ones I feel like made the rounds on more the bigger entertainment news. Because like a lot of these other people I feel like didn't. But like Mark Hamill was like the big get. And I think that might have just been, riding off of like the Star Wars comeback and stuff, but like there's some big talent here.
And I think there was also some talks for him revising as Joker in another animated Batman movie. So
that happened.
Well, I think there's more.
Oh, more?
That's what I'm saying. I guess the point is like Mark Hamill's name will get more headlines and clicks, and I think that's why a lot of outlets ran with that one.
Yeah, especially nerd outlets. Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I said, it was a very powerful cast. But kind of going back on the Gelflings a little bit, I actually thought it was really interesting that they created 7 clans instead of like maybe like a couple.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And I didn't quite expect it to go in this area, but they definitely talked about like prejudice amongst each other.
That was very right off the bat, very clear. Yes.
Orders and everything. And it's also interesting that the Skrillex are also the ones who
Skeksis.
Yes. They also they instigated this classism.
Yeah, to keep them divided and amongst themselves rather than, it's a classic manipulative
keep them
tactic.
Divided instead of united. Otherwise you get the whole like Bug's Life Hopper thing.
Yeah, it's it's very much if you need a comparison, yes, that is a very easy one for people to get.
Yeah, so I thought that was
almost like, no, I'm not going to go there.
No, don't. It's too dangerous. But Rian, he is a little vanilla in some spots, but I know where he's coming from. He definitely has tragedy under his belt. I mean, he saw someone lost to him at one point.
Yes. And
a lot of, I guess, the semi-prophecies tell him he's got to do certain things. And then you have, what's her name? Princess Bray. It's either Bray or Breve. I wrote down the names. There's so many names. Yeah, Brea. Brea.
Yeah, because I kept wanting to say like Brianna Tarth or something.
Because there are like the Gelfling Vargas or something, and there are 3 princesses. There was Tavra Breyer, who's like one of like the main ones, and then we have the Hamming Celadon.
Yeah,
so
Celadon.
We'll get into Celadon later because
you're not going to like Celadon.
That's heavy spoilers, but yeah, Breyer. She was almost interesting to me, but then she didn't get as much screen time as I expected she would throughout the series.
Yeah, once she sort of plays her part earlier in the series, it kind of switches over to either the other characters or even the other sisters.
Yeah. But believe it or not, I actually really liked Deet. I thought I would not.
No, Deet is actually a delight.
And I remember I was telling you back when we were watching the Dark Crystal movie that I think one of the reasons why I never got into it as a kid is because the Gelflings look so weird to me. And it has that uncanny valley where they kind of have some of those human features, but they're clearly supposed to be some kind of animal thing.
Yeah, that's a common complaint. And in all fairness, the Gelfling puppets are not the most, in the original one in particular, are not exactly the most expressive creatures the Jim Henson Company has made.
No, I agree with that there. I do think most of the other Gelflings in this looked a little bit better. But at the same time, we're watching this in HD and you can kind of see the pores and the wrinkles in their eyes and stuff. And
yeah.
Their lips actually bothered me the most.
That is somewhat of the trouble area.
But I think the reason why I like Deet a lot is because, like, yeah, she still has that uncanny valley thing going on a little bit. I think because of her eyes and the color of her skin and all that, she looks more alien-like to me, and I have an easier time believing she's a thing.
That's a very fair comparison.
And I think that's why I was able to attach to her more, because I'm not thinking, oh, you almost look human. It's like, nah, not really.
Yeah.
And I remember you and I, we were semi-arguing about this when I was watching all these Gelflings on screens for a while. I started to realize, they kind of look like sheep, like just the head structure wise with the ears and the nose and the mouth muzzles a little bit. And I know you told me, well, they probably just made up whatever for this. And I was saying to myself, maybe they are goat people. That's why the G and the elf-like, the Gelfling.
You hold on to that tin foil hat theory, my friend.
That's my tinfoil hat for now. But yeah, no, it's. I thought some of the characters were interesting, but at the same time, I don't know if Game of Thrones did this before. I've never seen it before. But this is a series that really depends on intertwining a whole bunch of people's storylines. Eventually converging into one.
Yeah, some of it's just the high fantasy genre. You get some of that stuff, yeah. And I will say that it really does, the story does really start clicking and gaining speed when those stories do finally come together or begin to converge.
Yeah, and semi-spoilers on Stranger Things. I was a little afraid that eventually these stories that we keep getting segments of, when they do get together, they continue to split off again.
Yeah, that was.
I was afraid of that. Luckily, the series doesn't really do that.
No, once our characters are united in their goal, they more or less stay that way.
Yeah, but let's give our overall opinions in this non-spoiler section. I say I was actually fairly entertained, so I'm going to give it that rating. I didn't dislike anything. I think I enjoyed myself. And one of the earlier comparisons to the movie and the series I wanted to make is I think the editing and the cinematography of this series was fantastic, well paced, and I don't think there was really much of a dull moment for me. So I don't know if I liked it or loved it to the same degree that maybe you would have had in terms of Dark Crystal as a whole.
Yeah, you're a heretic.
But I was never bored. I wasn't tired or disinterested or confused. I was fairly entertained. I felt like I had a good time watching this. So what's your rating here?
That makes me so happy just as a Dark Crystal fan. But for me, I think some of it is the problem of, in order to get this review up, an appropriate time, we had to, just go binge right through the whole thing.
Yeah. There are 10 episodes.
There's 10 episodes.
Almost about 50 minutes each.
Yeah.
The first one's longer.
Yeah. The first one's longer. And doing it that way can be daunting.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting burnt out on some of the binge culture.
Yeah.
But so I think if you are a Dark Crystal fan and you're not worried about, getting it all, in this one big moment, take your time, enjoy it, and watch it at your own pace. I do think it's not as bad as the original movie, but a common complaint in the original movie is that the beginning kind of meanders and then it finally picks up. That doesn't quite happen here. But there is a very clear, big difference of when their heroes aren't together and when they are together as to how much the plot kind of moves forward. No one's ever spinning their wheels, but like if you're in this day and age where it has to be constant action, this might not be for you. But I very much enjoyed it. I'm very happy with it. A piece of supplementary material I think is no longer canon, but I think it kind of was ambiguous at best. But I enjoyed it, and I don't care if it's canon or not. But just be aware. We'll get into that in the spoilers, I suppose. As a Dark Crystal fan, you'll probably enjoy it. You'll probably like all the new characters, and you'll enjoy it. It's good. Spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure they're setting up for another season 2, or at least how Netflix does it, where season 2 is kind of the second half of a season.
Right. A quick thing before we conclude here, though. I will say those who are unsure, who may be parents or something like that, I'm having trouble placing what's the appropriate age that this series could be for, because
that's fair.
There are some like kiddie moments and all that stuff. Well, not kiddie moments, but like things you'd think would be safe for kids. But then there are like certain actions and punishments characters do to each other where like, yeah, if you think about that, that's kind of horrifying.
You're going to have to grade it going off the fact that this is very much what would have been considered 80s kid friendly.
Yes.
Much like the movie, and then kind of gauge from there whether your kid can handle 80s kid friendly.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to say like maybe 10 or 11 years older. Might be okay.
10, I think it's fine. It's definitely something where like you just have to gauge it on where your kid is at.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much what I say. So I think that's our overall impressions, non-spoiler segment.
Yeah, very enjoyed it very much as a Dark Crystal fan. I think I may have just gotten you to enjoy some of it too.
I know.
So this is a win, and I'm happy to talk about spoilers now because I'm tired of beating around this peachberry bush.
Very good reference there. But before we get into any of that, if you haven't seen the series and you don't want to be spoilers, there will be spoilers ahead, so you will be warned. End the video here if you must, but be sure to like this video if you enjoyed our review so far. Mm-hmm. Subscribe to this channel, ring that bell to be notified when new videos drop, and consider going to my Patreon if you want to support me in any way you can. Just go to patreon.com/Matt Sella. Donate as little as $1 a month will go towards these podcasts, my art, my animation, content made just for you. Mm-hmm. But for now, you have something to say?
Just one more thing is while we're transitioning into spoilers. If you haven't seen the original movie and you're concerned about seeing this series, I do think it's a prequel and everything, and I do think you will be able to enjoy this and actually understand the movie better. I'd be interested to see how it is if you started with the series and then saw the movie for the first time, as opposed to the way most people probably have seen it, where it's the movie first naturally because that came out first and then the series. But, just be aware it's not something where it's like, oh, geez, I didn't see the original movie. Am I going to get this? You'll be fine.
Yes, I totally content with that.
You agree, yes.
I fully agree. All right, folks. So if you have seen the series or you just don't care and you want to hear what we have to say about spoiler talk, you have been warned. Spoilers ahead.
Mermaid ahoy.
Y'all ready? Here we go. So anyway, in this spoiler talk, I don't know if we're going to go in particular order or not regarding like the series itself.
We might ping pong a bit,
but I think it'd be kind of fun to just kind of go over a couple like little things that you liked, maybe didn't like, or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Like I will start here. And again, I'm in a weird place in my life. I didn't expect to like Hup so much, but I remember, I don't remember what episode it was.
Hup is a podling who would like to be a Gelfling paladin.
Yeah. And I remember, he followed Deet at one point after saving her from like some creatures or something.
Well, it was the Spither.
Yeah, and before they were heading to Hurrah because Deet needed to explain a prophecy or a warning to the All-Mater.
Mm-hmm. That she got from the Sanctuary Tree.
Yeah, and Hup wanted to go to Hurrah as well to become an official paladin.
To be knighted, yes.
Yeah, and I don't remember the exact events of what happened, but I like the fact that it was kind of like raining, it was drabby, and Hup was like, what am I doing here? There's dangerous things happening around. I got this spoon. This is not a sword. I don't know what I was thinking. I can't be a paladin. I'm just
It's blending together a little bit, but was that after the first confrontation with the hunter?
I think so. It was after the first confrontation with the hunter. And for some reason, that scene got to me. Like, I felt really...
You feel for Hup.
I felt for Hup, man. I was, like, tearing up a bit. I was like... And then Dee was trying to be encouraging, and I was like, this is a nice scene. Yeah. It was really nice. But then they underutilized Hup afterwards.
Yeah, they really sideline Hup. Hup would have kicked some butt in that final battle. I would have loved to have seen him waving that spoon around.
I would have loved it if he actually got himself like a spoon sword. Like it's funny. A spoon, but then cheats out and becomes like.
If we can have a key that's a blade, we can have a spoon that's a sword.
Right? And speaking of swords, that dual glaive, I actually really like its design.
The dual glaive was very cool. It definitely has a dark crystal high fantasy sword feel to it, where if you look at it, you probably go, there's no way that's practical, but that is still pretty cool.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that quote-unquote keyblade, but actually cool.
Ooh, shots fired.
No, I just like the way like the handles come together and has like that weird like parallel blade thing going on that has like the crystal at the end. It just looked really rad.
Which, as we find out, seems to it's not even like hinted at because there's multiple shards in the first movie that Jin has to sift through, but that is the shard in question.
Exactly.
Which then kind of makes me go look at Aughra and just go, Aughra, if you knew, like, there has to be something in season 2 where that gets mixed in with other shards. Because if not, I was like, Aughra, you were a real jerk to not just be like, no, this is the shard. I saw it in this prequel series.
I want to give out one more point here, then I want to give you the floor. Point out a couple things that you liked. We were talking about how powerful the cast was. That a few episodes we had, the soothsayer was Eddie Izzard.
I found that out too. That was interesting.
That was really hilariously fascinating because I recognized the voice for a moment and I was like, who is that? And the anchor was like, Eddie Izzard. I was like, dude.
Yeah. It's almost worth having someone watch it and then look up and see who the characters are. But I mean, it's so funny.
Yeah. But I got a whole bunch of like notes here and points that I thought was interesting. But let me jump to you real quick. What are a couple of moments that jumped out to you liked, disliked, whatever?
As a series overall, I actually liked the way the Skeksis, I mean, they were already, you could argue, drunk on power, but the way they then really fell into the Skeksis we see in the movie, because it's actually it's the scene where the Chamberlain returns and they're in the grand hall dining room area. And it's
the obligatory feasting scene.
It's an obligatory feasting scene, but it's very much reminiscent of the feasting scene. It's at that moment where you just go, now we're back to those Skeksis.
Yeah.
Those totally unapologetically not hiding it selfish Skeksis and just being very grotesque. And it's that for me was fun.
Yeah. One other character I kind of want to bring up here is what I call the Hamming Celadon, one of the 3 princesses of the All-Mater.
Terrible person.
And her entire arc, dude, semi-spoilers on She-Ra, I got major Catra vibes from her.
That's fair.
Where Celadon, it's like everyone, when they did the dream fasting thing, which, by the way, when they introduced that in this series, and I know it was in the original movie, the way the dialogue led up to the actual events sounded dirty in my mind. Like, do you mind we dream fast? Okay, I guess we could. I don't know.
I mean, technically it came first, but living in a post-Avatar, let's touch our ponytails together thing, it does kind of feel weird.
Yeah, it felt like a weird sex act. Anyway.
No, don't ruin my beautiful childhood with these ugly Skeksis.
It has been ruined. But anyway, no, seriously, when they had that confluence.
It's a very spiritual thing, Matt.
When they did the Super Dream Fast where Aughra showed up and said, like, here's the truth about the Dark Crystal. The Crystal of Truth has been corrupted. We need your help. And that included one of the sisters of All-Mater, Celadon.
The daughters of the All-Mater.
Yeah, daughters of
You said sister.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking of Bray and her sister.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were like, okay, we all got to help each other out. And Celadon's like, no, the Sketsky Skriller guys, they... What?
Just say it right. Say it with me.
What?
Skeksis.
Skrillex.
Okay. Skeks.
Sket.
Seas. Say it together.
Skrillex.
God.
I'm just messing with Marc here. But no, seriously, like, Celadon's like obsessed with the like law and order in order to become the All-Mater herself.
Yeah.
Her eventual predestined role.
Yeah, as the firstborn.
And whenever something's like threatening something that's new and uncertain, she's like, shit, we gotta, no, this is how it's always has been.
The trouble is, we've seen this character before.
Yeah, I'll get into that in just a moment. But the point is, with Celadon, she was like so obsessed with trying to live up to the Skeksis things. And she's like, no, you guys are lying. I don't care how many of you say that. I don't even care if Augra says this.
Yeah.
She's just a witch. She's probably just jealous. Whatever. And she goes like full dark side after that for a while. And her dialogue is so fucking hammy. I'm sorry. I got to censor myself there, but my God.
I can't deny that. Yeah.
Every time she said anything, and like the way they made her puppet like glary looking and long face, like, oh my God.
Yeah, no.
I didn't hate it.
No, but
it was so hammy.
Well, it's almost just, especially with dream fasting being a thing, you kind of just sit there and go like, you're really holding on tight to this thing, huh?
Yeah, it's like you got evidence all over the place here. You got a lot of people saying like, something doesn't seem right. It's like, no, the Skeksis are nice and friendly. Skemexis.
God help me. Thrall, give me strength.
But no, seriously, like she was so hammy, and eventually when like one or two of like the other martyrs, so like, I challenge you to throne, and like,
it's a Black Panther ceremony.
Yeah, and eventually she's like, screw it, I don't need that like tainted throne because my mother decided to go against them.
She's very petty.
She's very petty and makes her like her own fanboy.
Skeksis, yeah. Like she's wearing like a Lord of the Rings like Sauron crown or whichever Sauru it is.
Yeah.
There's so many Saurus in Lord of the Rings. And then she has like, they even say that very much that her outfit is like very Skeksis.
Yeah.
Which a part of me is why I loved that, quite honestly, for the big reveal of, and she's so in denial, like even up until like a point where you're just like, okay, there's something wrong with this person.
Yeah, exactly.
But like the Skeksis are just like, she's going, surely you will show us mercy. The Skeksis just go, no.
And everyone's laughing. It's like, well, then maybe he can just give you a couple. No. Just all laugh. I was like, gee, what the hell is wrong with you, Celadon?
Yeah.
And a couple other things, but I could probably go on for a while. Let me jump back to you. But like, any other points you want to bring up?
It's very hard to say because I'm very much that kid who was both horrified and creatively captivated by the Skeksis very much at a young age. I would say that it would have to be, because if not, would be a lot of articulation for a puppet. But I do believe there's some elements of the Skeksis where, like for instance, their tongues were digitally animated. I would have to say, and I think that really helped them because they are very much just your standard beaked Muppet-esque. It's a creature, so there's difference for Muppet and Jim Henson.
And they
fans.
don't have like lips that can like.
And they don't have lips, but that really helped, I think, with the vowels.
I was curious about that because I remember seeing that, and I remember when I first really noticed it was when Chamberlain was talking to the scientist, and the scientist was like, "Drain their essence." And I remember like the way the puppets moved and his tongue like moved with the vowels. I was like, "Oh, that's really interesting."
Going from the original movie to that, it could in some cases be distracting, but I think it works.
I think so too.
And I do like some of the new Skeksis in this one. I do think the Hunter is very much the standout character of the new Skeksis in this one. There's kind of a reason why he got the Funko Pop and the collector didn't, I think. But
oh wow,
I know you were a fan of the Hunter when he was on screen because for you he was really the threat of the series. Which I mean he was, but I mean
because I kind of brought up a point, and I don't mean to poo poo on you or anything like that, but even throughout the series. And I understand that these are puppets and practical effects and all that stuff, but I really had a hard time believing that these Skeksis creatures are a threat. Meaning they're big, they're slobbering, greedy, parasitic alien things that sit around and do nothing but like squabble and complain. And yet a small army of Gelflings can't take the castle from them. Like, I don't know. I just have a hard time believing that you can get past them. And even at the point where Chamberlain and the scientist capture Gaijin and Rian at the very first episode. They had like tiny like little dagger knives or something. And I was thinking to myself, you guys are like big lumbering dudes. Like the Gelflings could just hop on you and stab you in the face or something. But when Hunter came on, oh man, dude, I loved his choreograph movements.
He's not dressed as ornately as the Skeksis, so you could argue to a degree it's the costumes that are really hinder the Skeksis movement, apart from the ones in the castles being rather lethargic, I suppose you could say. But
But even then, like when he was like walking through the like chambers and talking to everybody, like just his like power walk and everything.
He has a very powerful and expressive stride. And actually, in some instances, it even kind of reminded me of some old kaiju rubber suit movement and how some of those would move.
Maybe that's why I liked it so much.
That might be because you are the kaiju fellow.
But even still, like when they were in the forest hunting the gelflings, like the way he like jumped between trees. And
it was almost like a lizard like.
Yeah. And I was like, damn, man.
I will say it is cool to see them because like in the movie, their second arms have kind of shriveled up. You could argue maybe from disuse or just they're dying that much. Yeah. But it was kind of cool to see them use their other arms much more prominently.
Yeah. I was actually going to mention you. I wonder if part of the reason why you kind of like the Skeksis so much. I remember during the scene when Wander and Heretic did that puppet show and they showed like a silhouette.
I love those two so much. I love them.
I kind of noticed the Skeksis kind of look like Ridley from the Metroid series.
I am a Ridley guy.
So maybe that's why I
am a Metroid boy.
Maybe that's why you like them so much.
That might be. For you, it's alien guys in rubber suits. For me, it's intergalactic space pirate.
Space pirate birds.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a lot of cool stuff. I kind of want to wrap up here because, again, I could go on for a while.
I could too, but you wanted to give a shout out to a voice who you thought was somebody, but actually turned out not to be.
Yeah. In case anyone else is thinking, Brea, who went under her mother's throne to kind of discover the secrets of what's the deal with canon.
That's fair.
Eventually, she found a quote-unquote puzzle asking what are the order of the Gelflings in terms of highest to lowest, and then eventually she learns no, we're all equal. Maybe that's the deception. We've been taught to believe everyone has a hierarchy. No, we're all Gelfling. And eventually she awakens this golem called Lore, and interesting enough, what Lore like comes up with like a little needle and like grooves on his.
It's very much a record player thing. I wonder how many. You know what's sad? We're at a point where I wonder if you showed this to a kid, would they think that's a cool fantasy thing, or would they not get that that's basically a record player? Or would they be like, oh, that's some cool fantasy thing?
I think half and half, because I think music boxes are still a thing.
Yeah, I know vinyl has been on the upswing lately, so it might be hard to say.
Well, not just vinyl, but like even in museums, they like show the intricacy of like music boxes.
I'm worried kids are dumb. That's the shorthand of it.
You could also argue that hard drives, technically, if you look at them, are pretty much vinyls.
That's fair.
But kids probably won't even think. The point is, when he did his like little speaker talk thing, the voice that came out, I swear, I thought that was Frank Oz doing a cameo.
It has a Frank Oz quality.
But unfortunately, according to the credit, well, it's not unfortunate really, but it was actually a puppeteer who worked on Star Wars, I believe.
Well, he might have been one of Frank Oz's replacement, because I know Frank Oz for a lot of like in like the cartoons and stuff doesn't always reprise his role as Yoda. So I know there is another person who maybe it's that guy. I don't know the exact name of it if you Google him real quick. But yeah, no. Lore and the person who voiced him, very Frank Ozian. Oh, was I right?
The guy I'm talking about specifically is Damien Farrell.
Damien Farrell.
He's a puppeteer. That's all I know.
Oh, well, if that's the case on Damien, you might have a future.
All right. And I think that's the other cool thing, too, about Aughra is that the voice actress for her.
Yeah, she's a new one, too, I believe. But
she's also a puppeteer.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing. I'm glad you kind of brought this up because this ties back to my voice acting thing. And with what I have a problem with some of the celebrity voices, some of them, like the Dark Crystal had, people doing the puppeteering and some people doing, not necessarily, in different people doing the voices. It's not the first one to do it. But in this one with some of the celebrity voices, and when you get some celebrities who do voice acting, it's just, they're generally not very good at emoting just vocally.
Yeah.
And it's an argument, I believe, that plenty of puppeteers have had, that, when you have someone doing the voice for a puppeteer, for a puppet, but the puppeteer's not doing the voice, you really don't get the full character there.
No.
And because this is a credit to Andy Samberg and Bill Hader as the Heretic and the Wanderer. I even said as much. They felt the most Muppet-like as performers.
Yeah.
Like they are both very expressive. They're bombastic. They're fun. And, Mark Hamill does a very good job of that too. But Mark Hamill, of course, has had his successful stint in voice acting.
Yes.
So that would, be a leg up on him. And I think that, but it's, especially Aughra, and I'm just glad that people who actually do puppeteering are actually also doing the voices for some of these characters. Because I think it shows, I think that's even just the charm of, they're the creatures, not the Muppets, but they're of the same DNA, and I think it shows.
Yeah. So let's wrap up with this review and talk a bit about the final episode and what it could mean for the next season, which episode 10, A Single Piece Was Lost, which, by the way, I think the naming conventions for these episodes are pretty bad.
Yeah, you've mentioned you're not a fan. They are quotes and excerpts from the movie.
But it's like some of them I was like, what does that got to do with this episode? Anyway, the point is...
It's a callback.
So as you guys...
Or is it a call forward if it's a...
Oh, you brought up a good point. I mean, it's a prequel, so therefore it's a call forward. In this one, as most of you probably would know in the spoiler section, the final showdown between the Skrillex Skeksis and the Gelfling commences and fails on them. The Emperor got desperate and used the darkening in his staff to attempt to kill the Gelflings once and for all, but
which actually then makes an interesting thing because
what?
I assumed this crystal in his staff was the original shard.
Yeah.
So that makes it interesting if then maybe
it's a faux crystal.
It's a faux crystal, or if that's a piece of the shard that then gets united to the main shard that then sets up its ability to heal the crystal in the original movie. Who knows?
Yeah.
We're still away.
You never know. I mean, like, I'm assuming the scientist doesn't know anything about that staff.
No.
Because they never established
and
that.
The scientist is not participating in the battle.
No, he's not.
And he does very much indulge the fact, even though he was the most willing to fight.
Yeah.
And that's actually some of the parts where Mark Hamill really shines when he's just talking to himself.
Which I will question these guys sometimes because, like, yeah, they punish the scientists over the pettiest things. But if it wasn't for the scientists, most of their shit would not get done. And they got major accomplishments, and yet the general is still a dick to him.
Yeah, it's very much nerd.
It's like, you're a weak man. It's like, I gave you essence. You freaking...
We are close though, because the scientist still hasn't lost his hand yet.
Oh, right. He loses his hand.
Yeah, because he has the pincy hook thing in the movie.
Right. Well, you know more about it than I do.
See, this is why I'm here.
Exactly. Thank you for informing us. But anyway, let me conclude here. So Deet absorbs that power that the Emperor attempts to use and throws it right back at
power of the sanctuary tree.
And I was actually really impressed by that because I remember there are very few moments of like TV shows or movies that made me go, damn, that was one of the moments.
That was a very powerful moment.
Because I knew she could like absorb it and maybe like move it around or something. But the way they did the effects where it was like shooting out of the ground with like the lightning and all that.
It was pretty cool.
I was like, damn. And then Aquafina got it bad.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, damn.
Which is fine because as of right now, she's probably, the Skeksis really kind of like they say he and stuff. But like I always thought they were kind of genderless creatures.
Yeah, no, I think they're supposed to be ambiguous.
But the Collector, especially this version of the Collector, because it's not the version from Legends of the Dark Crystal, the Tokyo Pop manga, wasn't necessarily my favorite new edition to begin with. And for those of you who are confused, the general who dies in this was not the Skeksis, who was the Gartham leader, master in the movie, who in the movie, I believe, for some reason, they also call general. So maybe he inherits the title, especially after he assumes control of the Gartham.
Yeah. And I will say one thing, though. I don't really care for their actual naming because it becomes hard for me to track because it's like Skek-Mill.
Yeah, the scientist is Skex-Tech, and Skek-Sil is, I believe, the Chamberlain.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm not going to remember that.
Yeah, but if you do have the Wikipedia out, that will help you know which Skeksis is which. And that was actually one of the big clues I had to the general not being the Gartham leader, because everyone else has more or less their same costumes, just, not as tattered from the original movie, but like it was a little confused because he even in some instances sounds like the Gartham leader. So but it looks like he's in a different costume. So just don't be fooled by that.
Yeah. But, so yeah, after that's done, they run off back to their little castle, even though they're surrounded, and I don't know why they were able to retreat, but whatever.
And why the Gelfling didn't just pursue them.
And
well, because the movie has to happen.
They won for now.
Yeah.
But then Deet, unfortunately, is full of the darkening and life is collapsing all around her. So I guess she might have to go into hiding. Yeah,
most likely.
Maybe. And then meanwhile, the scientist decided to kill his helper guys. I forget the name of their species. Originally, I thought they were the zombified podlings, but
no.
Next episode proved otherwise. So it's like, oh, okay, maybe they're just weird minor podling-like things.
No.
Anyway. their escape went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And he decided to mesh the dead corpse of one of them with the Strider things.
Yeah, what he basically used their because they say that they're a technologically advanced race, they're a smart enough race, but they're also a good worker race because they're very strong.
Yeah, they're surprisingly strong.
Yeah, so they combine the sinews and strength of them with the exoskeleton of the Arathim or the Spithers.
Yeah.
And that leads to the creation of the Gartham from the first movie.
Yeah, which I still remember from the first movie. I didn't think the Gartham were that imposing.
Get out.
Because they were like just big lumbering things.
Mm-hmm. What's with you and hating big lumbering things?
They have very little mobility and agility. I'm sorry.
You're going to feel very silly when they kill all those Gelfling.
Which is weird because the arachnid guys, they can crawl on walls and stab you really quickly. Mm-hmm. How is the Gartham better? These guys, they're stuck to the ground. Anyway,
I refuse to have you continue this.
We will have this debate eventually. But the point is, let me conclude here because I don't want to keep dragging on too long here. It's already long enough as it is. Yes, it's setting up for a second season. Mm-hmm. We got a new army that the scientist is building. Mm-hmm. This is my question to you and any fans of the Dark Crystal series itself. I saw the original movie with you again, and with this series coming out, I remember in the original movie, there were 2 Gelflings. Maybe there were like a couple older ones elsewhere, but essentially the Gelflings...
No, it was just those 2.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I remember now, because the girl was raised by the Podlings.
Yes.
Anyway, so the Gelflings are pretty much extinct at this point. They're never coming back. In that movie,
because I was going to say, do I have some supplementary material for you?
In that movie... We know they all died off because the 2 of them ran into a ruins where they learned about
the Gelfling culture.
The Gelfling culture. And in that movie, the Skeksis are still alive and pretty well off. Except I'm assuming the old emperor in the beginning of the movie is the same one in this series.
That is correct.
Yeah, he's gone. He's going to be gone. What made this series a little strange for me is that because I know the Gelfling are going to die eventually and the Skeksis are going to win, why should I get attached to any of these guys?
That's prequel problems. That really is.
I want to humor you with this.
Okay.
When Deke got the second vision from the sanctuary tree, we saw recreation footage of the little crystal being shoved back into the crystal, and it looked like the boy from the original movie. However, Rian also kind of looks like him too a little bit. And okay, hang on. Hear me out. What if this series in a way is retconning the original Dark Crystal movie? Meaning some of the lore is still there, but what if they're saying, actually, this is kind of an Elseworld changing the possible fates? Because Agra said she saw many possibilities and many futures, most of them pretty bad.
Oh dear.
What if they made the Dark Crystal movie one of those bad outcomes? And they're going to say, actually, the Gelfling were either in hiding or found a way to change that future.
Why do you insist on hurting me so?
It's weird not being a fan of a series and coming up with goofy things. You think that's bad, Mark? I have a scientific theory about how is the essence actually extracted from life.
Matt will be proven wrong.
I'm not going to go on that. But no, seriously, like, what are your thoughts on that? Saying like, okay, the Gelfling maybe will be killed off then. It's like, then doesn't that take out some of the stakes of this movie? Or do you think they might subvert that original idea?
I hate that term so much these days.
I don't blame you.
I think that would be an interesting take. It'd be very bold, and we'd have to see how that goes. Because, I mean, like I said, a manga series that you could debate how canon it was that I once enjoyed is now, no longer canon in this timeline. So you could already argue that I think that then just becomes too messy.
Yeah.
And I don't like it.
Personally, I'm okay if they would retcon it because then that means that this series is not a waste of time. Because most of the Skeksis are going to be fine. And only 2 Gelflings are going to be alive after 1,000 years. Or fine, whatever. And I don't know. It's like, yeah, there's a cult following of the original series, but as long as they keep like in spirit and kind of ducktails it a little bit with the Dark Crystal, keep some of those elements, but kind of like give out a more hopeful future for the Gelflings, I'd be okay with that. But as a fan who's like grew up and loved this series, I could definitely see why that would kind of suck.
If they were going to do that, I would wish they would have just, had that outright in the beginning. Even when they announced it was like it was going to be an Elseworld or a reimagining or something, because I think they've really build this as the prequel to the movie.
Yeah.
So that would be a little kind of...
Which personally is why I think hurts it more than helps it. Because again, I know the Gelfling are going to die off.
I can just never show you puppet movies.
So it's like, then why should I care about what happens to these guys?
That's just the risk that's just the problem with prequels, and why personally I do not like the idea of prequels. Mm-mm. So, I mean, I think that's
for
just
most cases,
and I believe that's an inherent problem of them. And I think at that point, you just have to hope that your characters will be enjoyable enough that you want to follow their journey.
Yeah. And I want to enjoy these characters. Like, I'll say this much right now. Like, I always thought the Gelfling design was kind of creepy to me. A little bit too much Uncanny Valley. Mm-hmm. I actually thought Deet was cute.
Deet is a delight.
And Deet doesn't look like a human. Just looks like some kind of creature. And that's why I'm like, oh, okay, I'm okay with that thing. Mm-hmm. But all the other creatures, like with the human-like eyes and all that, I was like, I don't know. But I want to care. I mean, what? Hey, I just realized the podlings will be okay. So maybe Hup will be okay.
Well, for now, until they zombify them.
Yeah, a good chunk of... Oh, but there's still colonies of podlings out there.
That then get harvested.
Do they?
Yeah.
Right, they do. Nothing is sacred. Oh, one last thing I'll say before we wrap up here, because we really need to wrap up here. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I am not editing this video and just releasing it uncensored. I will say this much, and I think I told this to you when we watched the original movie. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just a personal embedded fear for me, but the land striders kind of creep me out.
Yeah. I think they're helped a little bit in this one just because there's even more weird creatures.
Yeah.
Like the land striders are not the weirdest creatures on Thraw anymore.
No. But I think just the way they structure in the long legs.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what it is. Like, I remember back when I played Child of the Colossus, there was this one horse-like one with like the pillar legs. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was a little young and when those legs kind of approached me, I got that sinking pit feeling in my stomach. Just something about like really tall quadruped animals with long limbs like that kind of creep me out. And I think with like the land striders, because I know structurally it's a guy in a suit kind of doing like a Cirque du Soleil kind of like...
Yeah, he's got
acrobats.
Stilts on his arms and legs.
Yeah, and like conceptually that's cool, but imagining a creature like that actually moving and approaching you, I don't know. It gives me
I think some of it is where the joints are, because like you're not afraid of giraffes. But the land striders, they have their joints because it's a guy on canes. Like their joints are much higher up than they probably would be. So their forelegs or forearms, if you will, are very long. Yeah, it's that Uncanny Valley, which is also kind of funny too. I'm going to bring this up real quickly. In the Godzilla King of the Monster movie, one of the other kaiju titans, the behemoth, kind of has that look a little bit. And is that the mammoth look?
Yeah, the mammoth one. And I'll admit, back in my mind, I was like, that's kind of creepy. I don't like it. Maybe it's just like really tall, lanky, hairy creatures that creep me out.
Yeah.
Just something about it.
Just not for you.
It's unsettling. But anyway, that's pretty much my overall thoughts on this. There's way more I can get into, but we're already over time as it is. Did you have any closing thoughts on this?
I didn't realize, I'm sure if I really kept up on it, but I really didn't want any spoilers. And they were also kind of media silent on this for a lot of things. I'm happy we're getting a season 2. I look forward to it. It'll probably come out in like a year.
I would think so, because like the production value for this series is that it looks great.
Yeah, like it spared no expense.
And I don't know if this is an intentional thing. I don't know if it's a tick regular people might not like, but I actually really like the footage where the center of the frame was in focus, but if you look more down and to the right or left, it has that focal blurriness to it.
I didn't even notice that.
Even if objects are in like the same plane, it has that traditional filming feel to it.
That might have just been the extra step they were willing to take for it.
And I would, whether if you like that look or not, I was really impressed it had that authenticity to it. So if it comes out in a year, I could see why.
Yeah, and it even makes sense why this one, took so long from that first announcement. Because I think the first like teaser dropped in 2017.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that dropped a while ago. I remember talking to her, it's like, when's it coming out? It's like, well, I don't know. But I don't know. Now that they got most of the sets all taken care of, they'll probably make new ones for like different scenes. But I think they got most of the stuff out of the way. So now they just got to make sure the script is well set up. Actors and contracts are all fine. Get that second half out of the way.
Yeah, looking forward to it as a fan.
All right, folks. Well, that will conclude it with our very special Dark Crystal and the Age of Resistance review. Spoilers, non-spoilers, whatever. At this point, this is our opinion. Again, I could go on and on about this, but hey, I want to know from you guys, what did you think of this series? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know your comments below, any particular moments that really stood out to you, and join that conversation. And before we go, be sure to subscribe, ring that bell to be notified when videos drop, like this video, go to my Patreon, all links in the description below. And this is Matt Sella.
This is Mark.
And I want to thank you all for tuning in.